The crusade against communism becomes something that affects everyday life in the United States. The fear of atomic espionage leads to top secret projects like Verona, which proves that there is Soviet infiltration of US government agencies. However, this becomes overblown to the point where Americans start thinking they see spies every place. We must be ready when the Soviet attack, does come. Anti-communist hysteria sort of filters into every aspect of American life, into the papers, into the movies, into everything. There are investigations in both the House and the Senate. HUAC, the House Un-American Activities Committee, meets as early as 1938. This is going on before World War II. They hunted down domestic communists for prosecution and jailing. But the real issue, the real communist witch hunts, as they call them, started with Senator Joseph McCarthy and his committee from 1950 to 1954. McCarthy was the junior senator from Wisconsin. He needed an issue to run for re-election because he frankly had made no impact on Congress. And he decided that anti-communism would be his ticket to re-election. And he became the most prominent, the most famous, the voice, the face of the Senate for almost 4 years. Here he is driving through, it's okay, we're hunting communists, as he drives through the United States, knocking people left and right, running rampant over civil rights. Fire, fire, let's put out the lamp of liberty. Right, red channels. All right, this is a pamphlet that's put out to point out that in pursuit of communists, in order to allegedly protect liberty, we are destroying liberty, or McCarthy and those who support him are destroying liberty. This is a picture of a somewhat chaotic press conference, which is kind of the way that McCarthy liked to run them. His line of questioning was preposterous. When did you sign up to be a communist? His questions were almost along the lines of, when did you stop beating your wife type questions. There was no correct answer because it wasn't, are you a communist? It was, when did you stop being a communist? Here again is McCarthy putting out the fire of the lamp of liberty. Now, Blacklisted is about the Hollywood 10. Prominent Hollywood actors and directors who in 1918, in 1923, 25, had been members of the Socialist Party for a brief time, or had had a friend or a brother or a spouse who was a member of the Socialist Party, and now were blacklisted and not allowed to work. That sort of thing. The Red Scare in 1919, which was the Palmer raids under the A. Mitchell Palmer, the Attorney General under Wilson, and McCarthyism from 50 to 54, thousands of Americans who were at one point either at that time or had previously been members of the Socialist Party or the Communist Party were expelled from the United States, whether or not they were citizens, and civil liberties of American citizens were trampled on, all in the name of protecting the Constitution. The Communist Party, ironically, gains thousands of new members because if the Communist Party was being threatened in this way, those who questioned the motives of the American government began to move towards. So some people dropped out of the Communist Party for fear that they would be punished, and others joined the Communist Party because the American government was behaving badly. Many government employees were in fact spies and were giving secrets to the Soviets, so it's not as if there was nothing to be afraid of. However, the fear, the problem, was so exaggerated that it actually made the witch hunt something of a problem. Ultimately, McCarthy and his committee came crashing down when two things happened. When Edward R. Murrow, the most prominent newsman in the country, essentially took on McCarthy. He brought him on his show, interviewed him, showed him video of what he was doing, and said that you, sir, are not acting like an American. McCarthy then went back, sent his attack dogs, Richard Nixon, who at the time was a junior congressman, and Roy Cohn, who later went on to be a celebrity lawyer, and they went out to look for dirt on Murrow and found nothing. The second thing is he took on the Army. He believed that there were traitors in the Army who were selling secrets to the Soviets. And instead of picking on secretaries and janitors and people who he could browbeat and intimidate, taking on colonels and two-star generals, and being on televised Army hearings, when the American people saw McCarthy and saw his questioning, as in the picture and the press conference you saw, they saw him for the bully, the fool, and the fraud that he was. And although communism and infiltration of communists into the U.S. government was a real thing, it was not as extensive as it was, and they saw McCarthy as more of a threat than the dozen or 24 or so communists that actually were infiltrating the government. Read, practice, keep looking at old videos, and I'll see you next time.